There's a call to duty for all light workers. Let's get into it. Hello everyone, it's Rachelle Patterson here with Angel Souls, and this is your weekly angelic message for the week beginning August 27th, 2018. Again, happy birthday to my mom. Her birthday's actually on the 27th. I gave her a little shout out last week, but we'll cover this again because it starts right on her birthday. So, Mom, I love you so much. All right, so let's dive right into the auto right here. And it says, awakenings are essential, but watch your approach. So we'll talk about that. Darkness makes itself ever more apparent. Do not make excuses for those who pose as the light. So if you look on YouTube, and I'm not trying to, call anybody out, but really start paying attention to what kinds of videos get a lot of attention. What kinds of creators are getting a lot of attention. I was doing this over the weekend. I think this is a perfect example of what they're talking about here. And I'm noticing that people who really hit into the dark side of humanity, for whatever reason or in some form or another, they're attracting a lot of attention. They're getting a lot of views. They're getting a lot of subscribers. And there are some people out there who are trying to pose as light, but then they're doing things that are distinctly not of the light. And they're even saying now, careful with people who claim to be talking to angels, for it is not us. For it is not, they actually say, for it is not we who are expressing through them. There's a very, very, very small percentage of the world population that could be described, we're getting into this kind of weird spiritual talk, I suppose. And I say weird just because people have done so many different things with it, so just hang with me here. But I want to preface it by saying that because I don't want people jumping to conclusions about what I'm about to say. But there's a very small part of the population that are light workers. There's an even smaller bit of that population that, you're here to do angelic work. And I know that seems a little weird coming out of my mouth because I'm an angelic medium channeler, but these are the messages that I'm getting from them. And it doesn't mean that everybody can't talk to their angels. I'm talking about seriously really doing this kind of work. There aren't many of us on the planet who are supposed to be doing that. So what they're talking about here, I believe, is that, you have these people who are claiming they're doing these sort of dark things, and then they're claiming that they're also working with angels. And they're saying right now, this is not true. For it is not we who are giving them the messages. So some of them, who knows, I'm not tuning into that energy to see what the heck is going on there. Forget about it. The angels got it under control, but it could very well be that they're talking to fallen angels, or they're talking to dark spirits that are posing as angels. But, that energy and this energy, some people are built for it, and to take the constant flow of it. I'm sitting here because it's part of my purpose to be doing this. But be careful who you get pulled in by, whether they're super charming, whether they seem comforting because it seems like they have all the answers, okay? There are hollow messengers out there, and they are using the internet to spread their word. And they're saying, and it is the false word. We've talked before about how there are some spiritual concepts out there that maybe weren't really for public consumption, number one, and which recently I started to feel some of these concepts are from another, if you want to see it, experiment. It's from another human experiment. It doesn't mean like humans are getting experimented upon. We are all here because we want to be. But this was from another time and space, another dimension. And some of the people who are bringing those concepts into this world, onto Gaia, it's because they're remembering that. And they're still stuck in that energy. Okay? But they're trying to bring it forward and present it as if, oh guys, this is a spiritual concept and this is still something I'm working through. It doesn't fit in the structure of this quote unquote reality. Okay? So we have some of those things happening as well. There's a lot of crossover. They're very chatty. They're very big, like they're right here. They're all over there too, but they're right here because this is an extremely important message to get out there. So what it is we're getting very, very confused about our identities. We're getting very confused about the lessons we're actually supposed to be working through. Okay, so we'll get more into it here, but how can we differentiate? Okay, maybe some of this stuff is obvious. As I said, I was watching some YouTube videos over the weekend, and some of them I found very intriguing. I can understand why people wanted to watch these videos, but then I started looking at some of the other content, and it's dark. It's dark and manipulative. And that was a real hard no. And some of these people are even claiming like, oh, and I talk to angels. No, you don't. No, you don't. Or you talk to some form of angel, but it's not of God, light, and love. So be careful of that. Just looking at it. I mean, in a lot of cases, it can be really, really, really obvious. Okay. Conversely, you don't want to go like after every tarot reader and be like, they're evil because they read the tarot. Not necessarily. It really does depend on, everything is, the cards that I use, they're just cardboard until I activate them. Your crystals can just sit here like, we'll wait until you need us, until you hold them and say activate. Or, you know what I'm saying? So, or you're ready to work with them and you put your intention into them. So it really does depend on the reader. And I think that's the first level, kind of scratching the surface, to start opening your eyes and ask yourself, what pulls me in? And if it is pulling me in and I'm getting seduced by it, and that's a big word, seduced, what do I feel like I'm lacking within me that I could be seduced by this? All right, so we're going to talk more about this as time goes on. Anyway, that was big, huh? Watch out for each other. Prayers are heard. So that is important for us all to know that our prayers are being heard. Many light workers are called forward now, and it is all right for you to be seen. Do not hide what you can do. So it's all right to come on out now and start. You don't have to verbalize. So I want to make that distinction. I mean, if you feel like you want to, by all means, go ahead. But don't feel like you have to come out and preach at people. Don't feel like you have to come out. Just be. Just be. And I start to send out a lot of love of all the people who came before me, who were always such good examples of that. And I'm sorry I didn't recognize it as fully as I should have when I was younger, because, I would come up against these people and I'm like, oh my gosh, why are you acting like, why are you acting like that? That person just disrespected you. And you guys know I'm really big on setting boundaries because sensitive people can be very susceptible to the energetic vampires and people who want to take advantage of them. So, and I still stand by that. But there are some beautiful people out there who've always been able to really just be who they are. Unapologetically and not hide and still be very grounded and still be very relatable. Do you know what I mean? So my love to them. Thank you for being such a good example. All right. So where were we? The egos. Here we go. The egos will provide a challenge, and you will see this as normal because we're just so used to it. We just assume it's normal that somebody wants to use whatever tricks they can to become popular, or and you can apply that to any area of your life, or they'll just go to any length to win, that sort of thing. But you must take heed now and circle out of that sphere. Send love and allow others to find their way. So as we withdraw, this is without judgment. Think of it as if you're coming up on somebody who is sparking for one reason or another, and maybe they're reacting to you, you can circle out of that sphere and just remind yourself that person may have been through a lot, okay? There are things that we often, actually, I was just thinking of an example. I'll spare you the story because it's so crazy, but it was about going on a date one time. But at first, when I got on this date, I had all this like judgment, like what is going on here? And part of that was my own fear, wanting to protect myself. But then I started understanding this person's story and started understanding this is exactly why this person behaves the way they do. So, when I got out of that situation, I didn't walk away with hatred or like, oh gosh, that person was horrible. I didn't do any of that. I just walked away and I did a lot of praying and trying to send some love towards that person. Now, this doesn't mean you have to go around saving everybody, but what I'm talking about here is you don't have to engage somebody necessarily unless you really feel like you need to set a boundary. Remember, that's always a healthy thing to do. But you can send some love their way and still protect yourself. Does that make sense? Okay. So let them figure out their own way. We can't force people to be on a path. Okay. Heightened practices now. So we need to really start, this isn't just going through the motions of your spiritual practices. This isn't just going to your same old yoga class. This isn't just going through your same old meditations. This is really let that powerful energy come through, as we will see here. Bring the powerful energy of Source through you. Remind yourself of this when you do not like your story. For those who choose it can change. With all love, your angels. Now, this is not just about our own personal stories. It can have that effect of changing how you look. If you always define yourself as someone who's sickly, maybe you always look tired, or, you feel like people just say that to you all the time. Yes, of course, there's the physicality of it, of eating right and exercising as much as you can. I know that can be tricky. I go through that myself. But this is that kind of thing is, when you're meditating, you're really allowing that energy to come through, and you can literally feel your cells sort of restore, and allowing that to bring you out of this sickness energy, this cloud. Or if you start to feel anxious and you feel like at any moment something could go wrong and how do I control my life, you can just remember, to bring the source energy in and let it flow. Do you see what I'm doing here? You're flowing in. If you don't know how to do that, don't worry about it, okay? Close your eyes and breathe, and just invite in the angels of God's source, light, and love. I remember somebody made fun of me one time because they said, "Oh gosh, you make such a big deal when you're invoking the angels." And I get it. It can sound like a lot. And I think I even at one time was like, okay, we don't need to make such a big, pomp and circumstance around bringing the angels in. But I feel like we're coming into a time where we really need to make that distinction and make sure you're talking to light angels, because the other ones are around, most certainly. Okay? Let's get on to the cards. All right, everybody. As always, if you would like to get a personal reading with me, go to my website at angelsouls444.com, the services page. I have a lot of people who write to me on Facebook and through email asking me how to get a reading. I don't know if they skip over this part. Some people say that they go to my website and they can't figure out how to get a reading. Go to the website, to the services tab. Honest to God, and I'm not trying to be snarky at all, like because I give it pretty clearly, if you're not landing there, I know I'm going to take it like maybe I'm not supposed to be the one to give you a message. Sometimes weird things happen that are kind of inexplicable, and, trust that for yourself. Maybe it's not the right time for you to get a reading, or maybe this isn't the right kind of reading for you. So feel it out. Make sure that really is something that you want to do. But again, my website, angelsouls444.com, services page, okay? Gumroad, I have the September 2018 various sign readings up there. Get over there and check that out. I have some courses over there if you have interest, and some meditations. And of course, your support on Patreon is always very much appreciated. All right, so let's get into it here. As always, the decks that I use are listed down below. If you are watching this on a television, somebody pointed that out to me. This is obviously on YouTube. So YouTube is an internet thing, and if you're on the internet on your computer, you will see that there is a description box underneath the video. So you can always, if you're, later on, you're like, well, what was that again? Just get onto YouTube, and that's where it is. All right. So let's focus in here. I do feel like, despite kind of all the warnings that came through the auto write, I do feel like this is a time of happy change and relief. So if people are kind of in that space of understanding, got a card, ooh, abundance, yay. I was poking right out. There might be, the only people who are going to have a bad time this week would be the people who are in resistance, or if you're still in a lot of fear. You know what I'm talking about? So if you're not allowing yourself to have good experiences, then spirit quartz, music, if you don't allow yourself to have those experiences, or if you're clamping down on old habits, then you're going to have a rough time. It's going to feel like you're hanging on for dear life, when really, you'd be safer to let go, right? I'm also getting the feeling, I know I grew up in a household where our curtains were always closed, our doors and our windows were never open. Yeah, I literally grew up in a house like that. That is not healthy. Open your windows, let the air flow, get light into your home. One of my favorite things to do in the morning, obviously I'm not going to have my blinds open while I'm sleeping because God knows what that looks like, right? So, and plus I don't want people to know that I'm sleeping and vulnerable. But, when I just kind of open up my blinds a little bit and I let the sun come on in, it does feel like it's cleansing the energy of my home. Remember to activate that by putting your intention behind it. Okay. All right. So there's that. Oh my gosh. Okay. It's going to be a very energetic week. I've got cards flying out of my hands. Patience. So don't expect everything to change overnight. And they're also saying don't expect the abundance to happen overnight, but we're going to start feeling some very serendipitous manifestations. You guys, oh my gosh, I want to pull an extra card because this is just, I feel like there could be a lot of magic happening. And I don't mean it like in the airy fairy fluffy kind of way. I'm talking like miracles kind of coming in. But let's see. Oh my gosh, how funny. I wanted to pull an extra one. And then it's conflict. We're going to be resisting the good stuff. We're going to be hanging on so tightly to how we think things need to go that we're messing things up for us. We're blocking out the abundance. And so I'm just going to put these in order. Excuse me a second. I think that's why the patience card is coming up. And it's saying have patience with yourself as you learn how to allow, as you learn how to let these things in. So this stack can also talk about you're finally in a place where you're wanting to do more practicing with your spiritual stuff. You're wanting to use crystals more. And maybe the people in your household are like, you're weird. You've lost it. You start doing all of that. And that's where some of that conflict comes in. Okay. This isn't about fighting like, well, you need to be more like me. You lose if you're in that argument, or you need to listen to my criticism. You lose when you do that. The ego. And it's amazing. I'll say it again. I've said it a million times. I'll say it again. It is amazing how many people pose and pretend to be spiritual and wise, and they still can't help but just like let stuff fall out of their face. Like words fall out of their face. These words come out of them where they're like, you shouldn't do this. Or it's kind of like a backhanded compliment. Or you know what I'm saying? Or they're acting like they're supporting you, but they're really kind of taking a dig at you. A lot of times I'll come across people and I don't even think they realize they're doing it. I don't think they're trying to be evil or mean, but that's a habit we need to break. Because of our own insecurities, we're constantly projecting on others. So for some of us, we, might have that kind of energy going on this week or some lesson around that this week. So the first card, first of all, let me show you the color scheme. Here you go. Take that in. Remember, we still have a color card to get through. So it's kind of like these golds, these like earthy tones, really. I mean, some golds, some yellows, some greens, all that good stuff. But the very first card that popped out was Citrine. And we have abundance. Now, first and foremost, they're showing me how this crystal points up. There's a very sharp point on that. And they're saying your abundance comes from connecting into source. Your abundance comes from letting that realization settle in, okay? The abundance will come in many, many different forms. This could be spiritual growth. This could just be feeling at ease with what is. It could be realizing your manifestation powers, as we will see here. But in order to get yourself ready to be in a space of allowing for this kind of energy to come through, we need to attune our frequency, and that's what this is. So this is Spirit Quartz music, okay? And this is kind of Archangel Sandalphon energy. If you want to work with him, he helps you be very grounded and balanced as you go through your spiritual awakening. And music, sound therapy, sound healing, make time for it this week, okay? This will help you get in the right frequency. Now, I want to say too, because they're even coming through and saying that some people are still kind of going through the motions. And I've done that. You ever have that day where you're like, oh, I want to meditate, but I've got so many things to do. I just want to get it done and whatever. And so you sit down and you kind of didn't get deep into it. When we're doing healing on our own energies, and you need to do that, especially if you are somebody who does spiritual work, or more specifically, if you do angel work, like you truly do angel work, you need to give yourself some time to get back into this body, because otherwise you will lean on food. You will lean, I don't know too many angel people who drink necessarily. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but it seems like the vice of choice with mediums, like angelic mediums, is food for some reason. So I don't know if that's trying to, get them grounded, poof them out so they feel protected, like there's bubble wrap. Cellulite does not equal bubble wrap, as I'm coming to learn. I know, right? So anyway, this will help us not have to lean on vices. But a lot of times I think we have a hard time acclimating again back into our physical bodies, and to even remember how humans, the human interaction and how people are to one another. So to make that distinction, it's not as if, some people are separate from others. It's just we all have our perspective and we all need different things. So pay attention to your own body, pay attention to how you're feeling. Give this some real attention, okay? And Raziel is coming in. So we have Archangel Raziel with the attunement. So Raziel comes in with the sort of the etheric rainbow, if you want to see it as such. And Raziel, just, I keep thinking like razzmatazz, like there's this whole sort of like jazz hands things, that a feeling that I get with Raziel. Reason why that is, and I'm just putting that into very human terms, but his actual energy is such that it's almost like some people report seeing sparkles. It's almost like sparkly, almost like a rainbow on a night sky, if you could think of it that way, with like these sparkling stars around it. That's the kind of energy that comes through. And so what this does, it's as he's saying, it's an equalizer. This energy and this light is an equalizer. So it helps you balance your light and dark aspects. It charges up your electrical system, right, your chakra system, and helps you feel balanced, at ease, and gives you clarity, which Archangel Michael can also help you gain some clarity. But the clarity comes from knowing you'll be okay. And when people aren't okay, and there's plenty of examples of that out there on the news now, you will have the energy without depleting yourself. You will have the energy to send some love. The most recent story that's been on my mind, the toddlers that were in the car accident with their mother, and they were in that car for 4 days. And thank God the 3-year-old, last I read, got out of the car, walked up to the highway, and that's how they were able to find his little brother. Unfortunately, mother didn't make it, but it was reported that the 3-year-old just kept clinging on to the police officers because they were without food, water, they were without protection. They went through this traumatic experience. That's where we want to make sure we're healthy within ourselves. But I would ask each of you to send some love to those babies, and love and blessings to the mother who's on the other side now, and to help the kids really recover from that. We are powerful, and we can send love their way so that they really can get on their path, and they can let there be a reversal of whatever trauma they experienced. And of course, sending love and prayers to their family and loved ones. But that's the kind of thing we're talking about. When you're charged up within yourself, you have plenty of love to share, right? But when you shut out God, when you shut out the good in people, right? You don't trust. We can go on and on. Clearly, you're not a conduit of love. You're not a conduit of source energy. And they're saying that is what we would like to share with you today. So, Pyromorphite patience. We're not going to turn this ship overnight. And if, probably a lot of the reading requests that I get are for surface level things. Okay. Will I get that job? So some people, and I'm starting to expand my channel, so we're getting new viewers in, and that's wonderful. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's certainly nothing wrong about asking about your surface level parts of your life. You want to understand. But with an angelic reading, always expect them to go deeper, because they can see things that you cannot. And they're not just going to address your question, they're going to address the underlying energy with your life situation. And so when we're looking to have outward results, we have to understand that sometimes it comes with this kind of work. We have to go back into the soul. We have to see Where have we plugged into things that will short circuit us? And where is the plug unplugged from things that can make us feel alive and make us remember love and make us remember our authentic selves? Okay? So, patience with that, patience with yourselves. Make your spiritual practices a priority. Okay? Take care of the kids, of course. Make sure the kids are okay and they're fed and, happy and all that good stuff. But make sure that you're starting out each day, ideally, with some meditation. If that doesn't work for you, and that's okay, for some people it just doesn't, you can always do it a little bit later on in the afternoon or whatever, but make sure somewhere during the day before the sun goes down, you're giving some energy over to meditation. Because this is why, this is Libyan Gold Tektite manifestation. So it's happening. It's happening. They're saying you are powerful manifestors. You can bring in that abundance. You can bring in some enlightenment. And when I say enlightenment, it doesn't mean rising above other people. Enlightenment as in understanding, being at peace with some knowledge that comes to you, and understanding what is actually appropriate for you. I'll give you another example that they're wanting me to talk about right now. They're saying humans often define their happiness by how much money they have, what kind of titles they have, and how much people fear them. And they say right now, but you humans will call it respect. Okay? But really it's fear. Who fears me? They're showing me that that's a very prominent pattern going on with us. When in actuality, if you really tuned into it, what would really make you happy? Would you rather have a huge mansion that you can't ever in a lifetime even manage to get around? That's a lot, but or do you want, a beautiful, cozy home that's, decorated with everything that makes you feel alive and makes you feel beautiful, and it's safe, and it's in a beautiful and energetic kind of area. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's not too much pollution going on or whatever. You're surrounded by good people. What matters most? I know I'd be happier in the latter house where I just want to be around good people. I just want things. I like nice things. Don't get me wrong. I think that's my Taurus rising. I like nice things. I like beauty. I like comfort. But I want good neighbors. I want good interactions. And that's far more important than being in a huge mansion in the richest part of town. I may not be happy there, right? All right. So then we have this stibnite conflict. So I gave one example of how that conflict could go down. But if you notice, the stibnite goes every which direction. This is some of you trying to take on too much too fast. And you're not giving enough time before you go on and ask for the next thing, for the first thing to settle in. Your abundance doesn't have to be money. It can be an abundance of love. This is also the energy of knowing that you deserve it, that it is time. Okay, but this is showing not to put your energy in too many different directions. This also talks about, if other people feel like, I'm thinking more in the workplace, if they think that they are the priority, they have, like, their problems are more important than your problems. Boy, if I got examples about that, I'll spare you. But that's the kind of thing where it's like, no, I am taking a day off. And I'm going to sit at home and maybe I'm just going to drink tea and read a book and meditate and maybe go for a walk or dance or do something that I love. I'm going to go out to my favorite restaurant and have my favorite food. I'm going to take the day off of work to do that. And no, it's not really a priority. That's just you trying to look good at your job. Thinking of a boss that's putting a lot of pressure on someone who works for them. So let me just give the rundown, because here's the deal, guys. It feels like, that stibnite card that goes every which way, it feels like the messages are going every which way because they say you are so individual that it depends who you are, what your situation is, as to how this week will turn out. But right in the middle of the reading here, there's all this talk of, all these messages about getting in tune, manifest what you want, time for us to act on our own a little bit, okay? All right, so it's time to get on to the color card, and let's just see what else is coming up for us. Oh, there it is. There it is. You can see it before I can. I'm not even looking at the monitor. Ooh, hey. It's Aqua. Experience peace and calm. The number is 33. As you guys know, the 33 energy, that is the Ascended Masters coming through. And help is on the way. Help is everywhere. But you can't sit there and victimize yourself. You also can't get out there and be like, I'm full-on warrior, but you can't run a mile. You know what I'm saying? So we have to be somewhere in between. And that's what this week is bringing us. When we experience peace and calm, and we calm down on trying to make things happen, this is definitely, that's water. So when it comes to your emotions, going with the flow, knowing there's help there, working with your guardian angels, the archangels, you'll find that things actually start to unlock in your life. And they're saying one of the problems with humans and the way that our lives unfold is that we try to control things, or we have a very limited vision of what could be. And so we really try to contrive everything. We try to fit it into a box. Let's name it, doing all that. And it's very, very restricting and limiting. One of the examples, I'm just thinking of this. People come to me often and they're like, tell me my angel's name. It's just my personal approach. I feel like that's such a special moment of bonding between you and your guardian angels that I will often say, just go into meditation, do this and this, and you can get your angel's name. But I also always explain to people that your angels don't actually need to have names, okay? That's our deal. We are the ones that put labels on one another. We are the ones that want to know, how do you define yourself? Even down to sexuality, put yourself in a box, what are you? What are you? What are you? Where do you come from? All these labels. So when we go back to a being, a higher dimensional being like an angel, they understand each other through love. They understand us through love. They understand us through energy. So you might tune in. Some of you are arguing this because it blows people's minds when we get new information in, right? You might tune in and you might get a name right away. And you might argue, no. They absolutely have names. Of course they do. What about the archangels? Well, the archangels were created to help us in this earth plane existence. And we were going to be designed as beings with these third dimensional ego consciousness, duality consciousness kinds of egos. So we were going to need to have things labeled and compartmentalized and all of that. That's why we have these distinct archangels that all have very specific duties and they're named. It's because that's how we're going to understand it, right? So when it comes to your guardian angel, if you do have a name pop up, chances are pretty good you've worked with that angel before. One of my guardians is Jeremiah. His name came up immediately, and I knew that I had worked with him before. Whereas Alzekia, most of you who have watched me, you know that story. When she first came to me, she said, name me. You are the one who needs a name, so name me. And I was like, no, seriously, what's your name? And we kept doing this back and forth, and finally she slowed her energy down. And I could feel her doing this. And the more she slowed down, there was this sound that was not human-like. There are no words to explain this sound. It was like the most, I'm getting chills as I say this, the most gorgeous chorus. But even that doesn't come close. And then I could feel her slowing her energy down even more to when it did start to seem like some sort of music. And then it was almost kind of singing, but kind of broken, like Alzekia. And that was how I could decipher it, okay? She would have been just fine if I called her Allison or Allie. I tell people this all the time in personal readings. Like, she would have been fine if I called her that. It's just a calling card kind of thing. You can also just say, hey, guardian angel. And whoever, they know energetically what you need. You need not even say it if you don't want to, but you better know how to pull it through your energy to invoke, okay? Verbal invocations have power because of our frequency, of our human bodies, yes? So it's literally taking it out of the vessel and bringing it outward. But again, they're in tune with your frequency, yes? So often, I don't even have to say anything out loud or even think it. I just feel something, and then I feel, especially Alzekia, she's one who's closest to me, she'll pop on in. And then suddenly I'm having realizations, I'm finding solutions to problems. So I want you to understand that the way we've been taught to communicate with angels, the way we've been taught to deal with angels or how to think of them, it's okay. And it was okay for the time that we were in, but it's not the end all be all, right? there's still a lot more we don't understand. And we will, through angelic mediums and channelers, we'll get more and more information as we're ready to understand it. Okay, so today I wanted to offer that. If you have further questions about that, please, when I say if you have questions for me, it's not about, you know, asking a personal question about you to try to like get a free reading or something, but because we have to set boundaries with that. A lot of people will take advantage, but this is more about asking questions that are for the good of everybody who's going to be watching the comment section. Okay, fair enough. Have a good week, guys. We're going to leave it there. I'm going to go off and do some personal readings, and I'm sending you so much love. Take care.